right? They've been, the information's been weaponized. The Smith-Mundt Act, which Obama had overturned in essence, was a law that you can't propagandize against the American citizens. So that's what we're under right now. We're in weaponized propaganda, and it's working because through the social media, through the TikToks, through the TVs, which, you're being completely led, slow walked into slavery, as I like to call it.
Welcome to the Dragon Fist and Spiritual Bliss podcast. EZ and Andrew here with a very, very special guest, a freedom fighter, an activist, and now a politician, Jonathan Rinaldi. So, Jonathan, what are you running for? What seat are you running for? Give us a little explanation for all of us who don't know anything about politics on what's going on here.
Sure. So just for everyone's edification, politics and districts are broken down into assembly districts, which are smaller. You have city council districts, which are a little bigger. You have congressional districts, which are bigger than that. And then you have the senatorial districts. What I'm running for is the 14th congressional district, which encompasses southeast Bronx and the northwestern part of Queens. Let's just understand that the congressional district is comprised of Congress, is comprised of the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives are supposed to be the closest to the people. They're elected every 2 years. But I just want to make that distinction for those that don't know that when I am running for Congress, I'm actually running for the House of Representatives in the 14th congressional district.
14th congressional district. That's what he's running for. So, Jonathan cares about poor people, which is very different than most of the politicians that we have elected today. So please, start off by telling me a little bit about the difference between Section 8 and Section 9, and why it's so important that we fight for our rights and stop the injustices that are happening right now.
So, to be clear, NYCHA, which is public housing, which encompasses a large percentage of the people that live in New York, is funded by the federal government. The leases are owned by the federal government, the buildings are owned by the federal government, and it's public assistance. Section 9 is basically home ownership. Section 9 is for you to be able to pass down your apartment from generation to generation. That's why a lot of the projects are filled with multi-generational families. Section 8 is 1 to 20 years. Section 8 is also, you don't have to be in NYCHA. You can pretty much, they give you a voucher for that, and it's rental assistance. So if I have an apartment that, I'm charging $1,500 a month rent, Section 8 will cover a portion of it depending on the bedroom count, stuff like that. They'll give you maybe $1,200 and the person has to come out of pocket about $300 on average. Also, you have to pay for your utilities. But what's happening right now is the public housing, since the federal government has no more money because they're spending money all over the place through wars and sending $222 million a day to Ukraine, they can't fix the apartments. And there's no way to get anyone out of the apartment to fix it up because NYCHA is only run by maintenance people, and there's no construction division. So with all the illegals that are coming in here, all these migrants who are getting all the social services, there's no money at all for any of us anymore. Right? There's just no more social services. And that's really one of the things that I'm really trying to fight about and expose, because it's just the information. The people are in these public housing, they don't know what help they're getting. They don't know what programs they're getting. And at the same time, they're being taken away from them.
So are they kicking us out to give this housing to people that don't deserve it in the long run?
Well, what you have to understand is this. The federal government isn't helping the city with any of these migrants. So Mayor Adams and Brad Lander did some horrible deals. They rented out all the hotels that everyone is staying at. They're rented out full occupancy for about 2 years. These are the contracts that they're giving to these hotel owners. And the homeless and the veterans, the people that live here, the city was paying about $150 a day through Department of Homeless Services. But now, since the city is paying $500 or $600 a night, and that's just for the room. I'm not talking about the security, the Emblem Health, the best medical insurance you could find, the free food, the loaded EBT cards, the debit cards are now giving to everybody. So it's really about $3,000 to $4,000 it costs per migrant per day that the city is covering the cost. So with 200,000 migrants right now, which could be brought up to 1 million very shortly, we're talking about 30% of the city's budget. The city can't afford to pay for everything for free. So now they need the federal government to step in, but the federal government doesn't want to help because they don't have any money. So they're trying to do these creative ways to house them, and it's basically socialism, but there's only one problem. It's all the black and the Spanish people and all the poor people that are in the public housing. You guys are going to get replaced. There's no more money for you. You're getting kicked out and you're getting replaced, and all the illegals are going to get all your homes, all your services and everything, and everyone's just got to wake up.
Kicked out and replaced. So now make it make sense to me. We talked about migrants and we talked about the public housing. Tie that all together for me, where they're taking away your Section 9 to give you Section 8 in the future. I want to know, I don't know anything about that. I want you to tell me what that all means.
Okay, so basically, Section 9, you have rights to your apartment, okay? Now
Ownership or otherwise? Ownership rights. So you're an owner with Section 9.
In essence, you are, because you're protected with specific rights under that program, right? You gotta understand, you're not technically the owner, you're not on title, but you own that space, that apartment, because those public housing developments were built to help the people that need it. So right now, the buildings are all falling apart. Go to the projects. You see how they are. You see the condition of them. So the city now, through PACT and RAD, which are organizations that they're teaming up with private investors to make mixed-use buildings, they need to tear down these buildings. But they can't tear down the buildings if someone lives there. And they can't give Section 9. You can't take someone from that apartment and put them in another apartment and give them Section 9. So they have Section 8, which means that the city is forcing now the federal government to take care of the migrants so that the city doesn't have to. But in doing so, you're selling out your own people.
But why does the city have to in the first place? Like, if Mayor Adams knows this is a problem, why doesn't he just say, we're not putting you in hotels, go somewhere else? You can already see they know where to go to get what they want. Because I just heard Migrant Interview or someone talking about it where they were saying they come here to steal and then they go to Florida to spend the money. And they asked him, it was on CNN actually, and the CNN anchor was like shocked at the answer. She couldn't believe it. And the guy's like, yeah, well, they know if they steal in Florida, they go to jail. So if Mayor Adams knows that all these things are a problem, why is he putting them in hotels and spending thousands of dollars a day on each migrant? Why doesn't he just stop? That's where I get like the disconnect.
So in terms of what Mayor Adams said on the topic is that, we're bound by the sanctuary city. I believe it was the city council that voted to make us a sanctuary city. So he's using that as a way for him to say that he doesn't have the legal authority to do anything about it. However, him and Brad Lander, who's the controller, they're the ones that made these bad deals. They're the ones that offered the hotels above market rate for all these things. They're the ones that signed these contracts. I have transcripts of the Committee of Contracts from City Council where they talk about, they knew about this years ago. They knew these people were coming. They were not-for-profits that were given millions and millions of dollars to find housing for them. And why are they doing it? That's really the question. Why are they doing it? It's very simple. It's very simple. In order to bring us into socialism, AOC, the DSA, these are the socialists that are running around this place. How do you take us into socialism? You have to crash the budget. You have to crash the city's budget because they're overloading it. They're not going to be able to pay. Once that happens, then it forces the federal government to step in with their government checks, with their apps on the phone. It's a system, a vehicle in which they're going to collapse the budget in the city so they can bring in all of these people and put us under socialism.
Yeah, I believe that that's true, and I would also think, and I'm curious what you would think, that they know that a net 70% of the people they bring are going to vote Democrat. So it's a win for them. Like, the smartest people know that. So if they, and I heard AOC say just the other day, give them a path to citizenship. That's what they want. They want a fast track to citizenship for these people so that there's more of them to vote for them. It seems to me like that's what they want.
Well, it's exactly what's happening, and I'll tell you why. Because when they were building the HERC sites, which are the 10 cities, the first one that they were pretty much putting up was at Creedmoor in Queens. I went to Creedmoor. I tried to tell the people that they were doing it, but of course they couldn't do anything about it. But when I went there, what they're doing is that when these people are being processed, because first they go to the Roosevelt Hotel. That's where the buses show up. Mind you, the buses aren't being sent from Texas. They're being sent by the Border Patrol. Okay, it's not Governor Abbott. It's Biden who's sending them. They go to Roosevelt. They get processed, and then they get placed. And they get contracts for maybe 3 to 6 months. They have them in the hotels. They don't have room. They put them in the HERC sites. In these facilities, they have all their work authorization paperwork filled out and ready to go once they pass that bill and make it legal. What does that mean? You're going to give them the right to vote, give them the right to work, and that's what it is. It's the right to vote. Because with these absentee ballot applications and the mail-in ballots, which basically there's no signature verification, you can have thousands. And when I was running for city council, there was thousands and thousands of these papers. I could have had anybody sign, no signature verification, and it's going in the mail. So they're coming after your vote, they're coming after your rights, they're coming after your home, and it's happening right in front of your face. And we got to wake up to it.
So here's the most important question: is like if they're setting up all these things to basically make it so that Republicans can never win another election. I mean, if they change the whole demographic, how do we stop that?
The only way is through the projects, it's through the Spanish communities and the black communities, the ones that live in the South Bronx. When the black people wake up to the fact that all the promises the Democratic Party gave you, they're giving it all away now. When the Spanish people who came here legally and raised their families and have businesses, and when they see that these people are just jumping in front of them and getting everything for free, the people at some point are going to have to wake up and understand that everything's being taken from them. The socialist machine with the educational system has done a great job. The Republican Party is the party of the black people. Like, let's be real here. Look into the history. The KKK is the Democrats. This is what it's really about.
Lincoln was a Republican.
Lincoln was the first Republican. So they really have to understand that they've been, the information's been weaponized. The Smith-Mundt Act, which Obama had overturned in essence, was a law that you can't propagandize against the American citizens. So that's what we're under right now. We're in weaponized propaganda, and it's working because through the social media, through the TikToks, through the TVs, which, just look at the programming that's going on. Through everything that you see, you're being completely slow walked into slavery, as I like to call it.
Yeah. So I went to school in Brooklyn. And I'll tell you, I walk through neighborhoods, East New York, Brownsville, Flatbush, every single day. That's where my friends lived. And we're never going home straight after school, anything like that. And I feel less safe now as a 41-year-old with these unvetted people in the streets. I feel that they will not be prosecuted at the full extent of the law. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. Maybe you can speak to that. Are these people, when they commit crimes, the migrants, or what's the proper term for people that come here unvetted? What's the proper term? Is it migrant?
No, the proper term is human trafficking victims. And
Okay, so the human trafficking victims, are they being prosecuted to the full extent of the law?
Absolutely not. I mean, these people beat up a cop the other day.
Did you see that?
I did not see that. I just found out about it upstairs.
They beat up a cop right in the middle of the street. They went in. Alvin Bragg's DA doesn't prosecute. Let them walk. And now they're in another state. They got on a bus and they left. You can't find them. But the thing is that you have to be careful with saying illegal. Right? And the reason why I say that is because technically when they cross the border and they're giving the asylum status and the paperwork, technically through legal terms, they're not technically illegal. They're very smart in what they're doing. Right? Now when you say illegal alien, you're a racist. And you say migrant, you're like, oh man, I want to take care of these people. But they're human trafficking victims. The definition of human trafficking is a commercial exploitation for work and sex. Okay? And that's exactly what's going on right now.
So 10 years ago, were these asylum seekers that got that special privilege status to escape the persecution of their countries, were they vetted, or was it exactly the same as it is right now with the new asylum seekers or human trafficking victims or whatever you want to call them?
Listen, and it's not as open as it is now. And the reason is because if I lived in another country, right, and my country is not good, and I find out that, I don't know, Australia is giving everyone a free home, loaded ABT cards, free medical, everything. Of course, everyone and their mother is going to want to go to Australia. That's what's happening to New York. Everybody around the world is online to come to New York because they're prioritizing foreign nationals and giving them everything for free over our own citizens. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, I heard they get about 10 grand per migrant in all the benefits that they get. So, I mean, again, like, what's the answer? We live in a mostly liberal city. How do we stop people like AOC and people that seem to not care about the people that live here? Like, like you said, we want to take care of the people that live here first. Like, and then, yeah, if we can help and there's extra, but we have to take care of everyone, all the New Yorkers that have been here for years and years and years. How do they not come first? I don't understand that.
Can this be addressed at the federal level is a better question, because that's where you're running,
Right,
correct?
right.
So is this a city thing, a state thing, or can it be addressed federally?
The way that this country's set up, right, is that the power is supposed to come from the bottom up, not the top down. The local elections are the most important elections that you can ever imagine. Now, I'm just a parent, right? I'm just a random guy from the street, okay? I'm from Queens, born and raised. I'm not part of the machine. The only thing I did was go to my district leader, was to get in front of my party, have an interview, get signatures, and get on the ballot. It's that simple. Anybody can do this. Anybody can run for office. Anybody. And until we take over our local offices, until we go to the school boards, until we go to become district leaders, until we fill all these community roles, then we don't have a chance, because the people have to go and do that. Now, I'm running federally because I think that I'm the best candidate against AOC. I think I'm the best one to go against the Democratic Socialists of America, because I am so fed up. I'm from Queens. I grew up in the 90s. I'm not taking it from them. And I'm going to make sure that these people are held accountable, okay? That's it. I want to make sure that these people, when I have my hearings, that I bring these people in front of me in Congress, in the House, and I ask them and I hold them accountable for all of the evils that they've done to us for the last 4 years.
So another problem I think that we have, and I'd like to know how you would address this, and we touched on it before, is about how most of the institutions are ideologically captured already by the left. The colleges, the social media companies, the news outlets, the media. I think the only one that we have is Twitter, right? That's the only one where, like, conservative or anything that's not liberal positions can actually be voiced on. How do we fix that core problem with our messaging? Because everything you're saying is right, but if everyone on every social media, news outlet, university doesn't get that message, we got a problem, I would think. How do we convert some of the institutions?
I think that the mainstream media is dead. I think that the messaging, even though they are ideologically captured, I do believe that people are waking up. So we have to do things that you guys are doing. We have to have our own podcasts. We have to have our own shows. We have to get the message out there. What I've done is, I like to go to when they're having their press conferences. I like to go to City Hall. I like to find out when the socialists are out there, and I like to call them out. I don't let them have their press conferences. I don't let them, peacefully, obviously, but I don't let them just monopolize the message. And that is really the hardest thing, because they're up against, like, look at me, right? The only way I'm going to be taken seriously as a candidate is if I raise money. AOC's got millions and millions of dollars behind her. Whose millions? I don't know, because I refuse to take all this PAC money. Like, I'm not going to take money from transportation alternatives and then go sell out public sidewalks because I want City Bike and Lyft to have access to rent out, the sidewalk. Like, I'm not doing that. But most people do, so it's really, we need a grassroots organization to raise money for candidates. That's the only way, because that's when they can buy airtime. That's when they can hire people to go to petitions. That's how we can get into the community. But without money, without raising money, all of this is going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you can always follow the money and know what everybody's political positioning is. And that's a tough one, man. The raising money is hard because money is in short supply right now. The devaluation of the dollar, the greening of everything is making it so that I got to walk into the grocery store and spend $700 every time I walk in there with my 4 kids. And who's spending less?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you spoke about the money, right? Because I want to touch on that, especially the Green New Deal. So look, but when we got off the gold standard years ago, our money is tied to the petrodollar, which means that our money is tied to oil and gas. Okay, that's just what it is. And let's not forget that we breathe out carbon dioxide. Like, we are carbon-based life forms. So anytime someone talks about carbon, let's understand what they're really talking about. They're talking about us, the population controlled through vaccinations and through abortions to make sure that we are taxed on our breath, okay? And now with the cobalt and the lithium that they're used for batteries, which are mined in the Congo by children with their hands, once we go to that, our petrodollar will be devalued. If we have a currency that's not based on something that's valuable, you know, we're in endless amounts of war. We're spending $222 million on Ukraine alone. They're passing budgets, spending billions and billions of dollars to send overseas to go blow it up. We just got out of the Middle East. We don't need to go back into the Middle East. But meanwhile, they can't fix the elevator at the projects in Queens and the Bronx.
So audit your government and drill, baby, drill. Who said that one? Who said drill, baby, drill?
My man DT.
Donald Trump, right? Drill, baby, drill. What were you going to say, Andrew?
I was going to say the problem with the government audits is that they just fail them. Like, the military just fails like 10 audits in a row and says, go fuck yourself.
I meant audits by us. Like, we have to audit our public officials and hold them accountable by video recording them at all possible opportunities.
But he brought up like an existential threat, I think, to our society that Eisenhower brought up, right? Which is this military industrial complex that seems like there's no stopping it. Like, what does America make? It seems to me like we make war. That's our number one product that we push. That's where we're making, to me. And I'm curious if you think there's actually a way, because it seems like Trump was the only one that actually wanted to stop that, and that's why everybody hated him. Everybody wanted to shut him down because he wasn't really for endless wars. What do you think? Is there a way to stop it without them coming for your head, or is it even possible?
I think it's possible in this sense, okay? I think that, look, there's a lot of military, there's the FBI, there's CIA, there's law enforcement. It's a huge number of people that they need to put to work, right? So when they start wars, they get funding so that these people can get put to work so they can make some money. It's part of the system. It's the government budget. It is what it is. But instead of doing that, why don't we, through the Army Corps of Engineers, why aren't we developing hydropower, thermal power? Why aren't we reinvesting it into the country? Why don't we have, why don't we have them working to build infrastructure? Why don't we take that labor that we have and redevelop our country? You know, like the federal government, right, takes care of public housing. Why aren't we setting up trade schools in the projects to teach the kids union labor to be electricians, plumbers? Let them come and fix their own place. Let's not get private developers to go in there to make a profit and kick them all out of there. You know what I mean? If we do have an energy crisis or situation, then let's develop the technology that's going to give us that power, right? Let's develop the hydro. Let's build 1 million dams and turbines under the water in the ocean, right? Let's go into the volcanoes. Let's put in some thermal power. It can't just be cobalt and lithium being dug out by children in the Congo, right? You can't fund our whole energy system on child labor in Africa, for God's sakes. It's not the way we're going to get out of this.
Increase that GDP, baby.
Yeah, I mean, the cobalt issue, it's a serious one. I'm not really sure how to fix something like that because all the electric vehicles, all the cell phones, we need cobalt, right? And that's like the number one area where it is, and we don't control the Congo. We can't put in safer. Like, I don't know what the answer is for not using cobalt. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. I've seen pictures of it, and people, social justice warriors, will often be texting on the thing that is causing the most harm. So it seems like no matter what you do, like even people that are trying to do good are doing bad, even if they don't know it. And it's really hard for the average citizen to actually make an impact, I think.
It's possible, but we brought up cobalt and lithium and all that stuff too. Remember in Afghanistan, right, where we were on one side of the mountains blowing that place up. Who was on the other side of the mountains? The Chinese digging for all these minerals. So we basically gave them the rights while we're in this place supposedly fighting a war. On the other side, we have China that are digging and getting all these rare earth minerals. But yeah, look, we have hydrogen. We have all kinds of other technology. Maybe switching over from cobalt right now isn't the answer, but it can't be the only thing. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we have to be developing all those systems, all what's available. And we don't have to be building bombs all the time. We could build infrastructure.
Also, the capitalist system, I think, that we push so much. Like, you don't need a new fucking iPhone every year. It's obnoxious, especially when you know where it's coming from. You don't need a new computer, a new tablet, a new iPhone. Like, it's exactly the same as my iPhone from 4 years ago. There's literally no difference. They're just pushing more and more and more, and we see the damage that it's doing. Are you running? I like your message. Are you running as a Republican? Are you running as independent?
I'm running as a Republican and conservative candidate for the 14th Congressional District against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
And what's the problem with her? Tell me what's going on with her that's going to make this a race that you can win.
The problem with her is that she's a Manchurian candidate. She's not real. Okay? You don't come from nowhere as a bartender and had millions and millions of dollars in your bank account and run for office as an unknown. That's not how any of this works. Okay? She's not real. She doesn't represent the community. Okay? She's out there representing foreign nationals, and she's out there turning us into a socialist hellhole, and she's doing it by only supporting the migrants. Nobody else. There's no support.
So, Jonathan, who does she represent?
She represents the socialists, the globalists. She represents the World Economic Forum. She represents big pharma. She represents big tech. She represents censorship. She represents everything that is anti-American. Everything that goes against ideologically what makes us great, what makes our families great, what ensures our future, she is against. Everything.
Spoken like a true American.
I agree with everything you're saying, and I think a lot of Americans know that. And I see even videos of her where she's like getting yelled at now, where she's walking down the street. Do you think it's possible to take her out? I know that she does have a lot of support. I think, and this is a very liberal area, right? Is it possible? Is this something that can be done?
Well, I'm the one who shut her down when she came to Roosevelt Hotel. When she tried to show up at Roosevelt and lie to everyone and gaslight New Yorkers, I was there to make sure that our message was heard and she wasn't able to have her press conference. That was me. I'm the one who shut down the migrant hotel in District 24 at the Q Motor Inn. No other person except for me who was a candidate in District 24 was able to shut down a migrant hotel. I'm the one that did that. And in terms of the messaging, okay, the people are fed up. The people aren't stupid. Okay, they know when they walk down the streets, when they get on the train, they know that the trains went up. They see the homeless that are there. And why are they there? Because there's no place for them because all the illegals have all their room.
What scares me is that it seems like people on the left, like, if you haven't learned from history that socialism doesn't work, there's almost no convincing them. Like, it's so blatantly obvious just from any socialist country that's ever existed that this is a terrible idea. But yet the messaging is so strong towards them that they still go along with it. And that's what scares me. It's like almost like I always want to ask, these liberal cities, they're all shitholes. Like, if you took like the worst cities in America, they're all run by the left, all of them. But the people continue to support the left. And that's what I think is we have to take these communities and help them so that they can see that someone actually does want to help them, and it's not the left. Because they've had their vote for 30, 20, 30, 40 years, and they've never helped them. How do we? You were talking about this earlier. How do we get more communities on our side? As really, I think we have the best intentions for all Americans.
Yeah, I think that it comes from empowerment through education, right? It really, when I'm in the projects, right, and I'm the only Republican to go into the projects, right, we need to get in there. And all I'm really doing is telling them the difference between Section 8 and Section 9, which I didn't know. I had to learn it, but telling them that, letting them know that what is happening in their community and giving them a path so that they understand that they can run for office. Like, the thing about politics and the system is such that information is what's valuable. Okay, you have consultants, you have people that hold this information and charge you thousands and thousands of dollars for things that are relatively easy. All you have to do is get signatures. All you have to do is get in front of a county committee and tell them, send them an email with a resume that you want to run, and they'll run you.
So where do you think is a good place to start? If someone wanted to get involved in like a local election, where could the everyday person that wants to get involved, what's a good position for them to start looking into?
Contact the people that back AOC.
You can run for county committee.
Who's that?
Yeah, you can run for county committee. The hard part is to find the district leaders in your area. Know who your assemblymen are. Know who your city council person is. Know what district you're in. There's election districts. There's city council districts. There's assembly districts. Know who represents you. Because like I said, this country is built from the bottom up. Local politics is the most powerful politics in this country. Forget about the federal government. The federal government shouldn't have that much power. It's to the states. It's to the communities. People have to understand their power, and they have to think for themselves. If somebody's promising you something for free, it's not for free. If somebody is telling you something, do your own research. Make them come earn your vote. When they call you and tell you to go vote for them, ask them what they're going to do for you. Make them come to you. You don't go to them. All right? And really get involved and understand the history of both parties. And you can always go to my website, which is jdrfornyc.com, jdrfornyc.com. And on there, you can put your information. I'll reach out to you, and I will teach you everything you need to know for free. Okay?
Journalism is a right and a duty, not an occupation. I want your thoughts on that quote. The original Spiritual Bliss EZ quote.
So here's what I'm going to say about that, okay? We have certain constitutional protections. I want to be a little bit clear on that because our rights are inalienable and given to us by God, okay? The Constitution is really rules for the government, not for us. Our rules come from God. We know what's right and wrong inherently, okay? But journalism is protected under the First Amendment, which means that public servants or people that swore an oath to the Constitution are there to protect our rights. Now, our First Amendment right means that we are all journalists. We all have the power to videotape our government in their course of their duties and redress our government. Time, place, and manner. We can go to any public accessible area. We can stay there as long as we want, and we can film them as long as we want. But we have to understand that we have the right. Most people are going to try to just tell us that we can't do it, but we have to stand up for ourselves. And the First Amendment not only protects that, but it protects not only journalism, but it protects our freedom of speech. But it's not our right, okay? It's the government's duty to protect that to which they swore an oath, okay? Because we have inalienable rights by God. The Constitution doesn't give us rights, okay? The Constitution ensures that our rights are protected by those that swore an oath to uphold it.
I love that. I love that, and I'm going to use that, and I'm going to tell my kids that the Constitution is an enumeration of your rights, telling your government what your rights are because you have them already. They're not giving you any rights. You're giving them the right to uphold your rights.
Well, and this is why we really need more candidates like you, Jonathan, because all these things are under attack. It's obvious that our rights are under attack, and that these things are trying to be taken away from us. So if we can get more candidates that understand why these things are important, I think it would be beneficial to everyone before we lose those rights.